couple of months ago, we did an interview with a writer from Deadspin who did a story on David Clyde, the former Texas Rangers pitcher. All who are Rangers fans are familiar with the way Clyde was used back in 1973. He was thrown in at Arlington Stadium when he was only 18 years old and abused really as a pitcher. And then you know the tragedy that followed as he struggled with arm troubles that ended his career just 5 years later. A news story came out just recently that there may be a movie in the works on David Clyde's life, and that's where we go now to the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com. And joining us now is Richard Julian. He is the writer of this film. Tell us about your story and what you've got planned.
Well, Bryan, my history with David goes back probably to around the year 2000 when I read an article in the LA Times that Bill Plaschke wrote, a very famous Los Angeles sports writer, and talked about David's plight being this great bonus baby. And I remember David back when I was in high school, and I actually was pitching on the same high school team with Oral Hershiser at the time, and that was every kid's dream to be a professional pitcher. And hearing about a kid that was in high school pitching against professionals, I thought, wow, I got to find out about this guy and see where he's at and what's going on. And I actually made a trip to Tomball, Texas, and spoke with him about making a movie about him. And he was kind of had reservations at first, but I finally convinced him to go for it. And here we are, like 10 years later, and we're getting ready to go again with it. And like any film, it has its ebb and flow. And we had it close to being made at one time about 6-7 years ago, and we're getting to that point again.
Okay, and that's even knowing that Casey Affleck and company may be working on the same kind of a movie?
Well, I don't think it's the same kind of movie. I think it's more of kind of a story that deals with a certain era and a contemporary player. But David's story has, I think, more depth and more dimension, and it's also more colorful because of the characters that were in this type of film, and particularly world-class iconic figures like Billy Martin and Whitey Herzog and the former Texas Rangers owner Bob Short.
Okay, let me ask you something. The title of the story is "Walk On: The True Story of David Clyde." So,
sir, it's not. It's called The Prospect now. It's not called Walk On. We've had a lot of incarnations with the script, and mainly because of David's, the story's evolved since I met David. You know, when I first met him, he wasn't involved in coaching or anything. He was basically not interested in being involved with baseball other than his own kids and maybe a little coaching and Little League, so forth. But he's now become such a sought-after tutor with the Houston Miracles Baseball Academy, and for last 10 years, I think he's got probably maybe 200 kids under his tutorship. So the story today is not necessarily where he was, but it's where he is today.
Well, the reason
the story's called The Prospect.
Okay, all right. So it's The Prospect, but when I saw the original title and it talked about the true story, is there something that's being left out that we don't know, I guess, is what I was going to ask.
Well, I think this deals more with the behind the scenes and some of the politics that were going on when David went from high school to the big leagues. Basically, you know, he was a kind of a marked man, just getting right into the box, going into the Rangers situation. And I think that with Bob Short saw David as a cash cow, and Billy Martin saw him as a threat to his popularity. And I think David went in there and basically didn't know what he was up against. And at the time, these young players, you know, this was before the players we have today that have the safety net to protect them. And when David went in there, I think that he didn't really realize that he was really going to what he had to I guess the pressure and the weight under him to perform at that top level.
Yeah, I was real stricken by the fact that in the Deadspin article it sounded like he doesn't have any bitterness toward the situation, but it is a tragic story.
No, he doesn't have any bitterness, and that's what why attracts me to him so much, is that he basically doesn't look at baseball owing him anything. He looks at it more as that he still has something to contribute, and his life experiences and and what he went through, going through that crucible, I think makes him even more of a great mentor to these young kids. And I think that's part of the reason why he wants to get back into professional baseball, to share that. And I don't know. I think that at some point he will be able to get back into baseball, and I'm hoping that the film will bring attention to his story and bring it out of the shadows.
This happened almost 40 years ago. Why is all the sudden interest now, you think?
Well, if you've noticed recently, the Steven Strasburg, they're handling this kid with kid gloves and watching how many innings he's pitched and not trying to burn him out. A lot of that had to do with David's story, and I think in the back of their minds, and I'm sure guys like Davey Johnson are aware of David's story. And you remember David pitched all his innings in high school and then went right to the Rangers, and they were pitching him and saying he was pitching when he wasn't pitching just to get fans in the seat. And I think that that probably didn't help him in the long run. I think it wore him down, and I think David developed arm problems later on. And I think that you have a guy that's a pioneer that really set the standard, that was basically the sacrificial lamb for all these kids today. Even in basketball, they have a safety net today. And with David's situation, there was, I think it was an act of betrayal on the Rangers at the time, the organization, and so forth. And this is sort of, I guess, a redemption story, and I think that's why it's a little different than the Casey Affleck story and so forth, in the sense that it has a wider range of appeal.
Okay, so where are you now in the project? Have you already got money in place? Have you got actors picked, that kind of thing?
Well, I actually have a couple of producing partners down there. I got Bill McAdams is working with me, and his father was a coach, actually was a scout for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and came up with Pete Rose, and he's in Fort Worth right now. His family's from there, and he's actually meeting with some of the investors down there at this moment. And I have another producing partner, James Spies, who actually produced some Academy Award-winning movies called, one was The Contender with Jeff Bridges and so forth. So we have a good team around us. And as far as the talent, I have Charlie Sheen interested in playing Billy Martin, and we're working on that.
That's great casting.
You laughed at that.
He's as crazy as Billy Martin. That'll work out
right.
great.
One psycho playing another. He doesn't have to really prepare for that role either. He just comes in but Charlie's a very huge baseball fan, I'm sure you know, and
sure.
has talent to actually play Double-A ball. Or he's a very still interested in actually getting out there and throwing the ball around, from what I understand.
The one thing I saw in the Dallas Morning News article that came out recently is that somebody was talking about Kevin Sorbo lined up to play Whitey Herzog. I'm having a hard time featuring.
No,
I'm having a hard time watching Hercules playing Whitey Herzog.
Well, I actually know Whitey pretty well. I've met him a few times, had lunch with him, and it's the stature there and the physicality certainly don't fit.
No.
We're actually thinking of Tim McGraw to play Whitey Herzog.
Oh, well, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
That's interesting. All right,
Yeah.
and do you have anybody in mind to play David Clyde?
There's a few guys out there, and I think the most attractive roles in this story are obviously Billy Martin and Whitey, and David's role. We have a few guys out there. The kid from Glee we were talking about, Court Overstreet.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's a Nashville guy, not a Texas kid, but from the South, and he's a good athlete. So we're basically trying to stick to I think the Billy Martin role is the marquee role because I don't think there's ever been I don't think there's ever been anything done on Billy Martin, actually, as far as, especially the cowboy Billy Martin coming into Texas. And not many people realize that Billy Martin actually thought he was the reincarnation of Billy the Kid.
Billy Martin did have a few screws loose. There's no question about that.
Actually thought that. That's where he got the Billy wear from.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, we want to keep up with you on this. Best guess, gut feeling. When do you think, if all things were equal, when do you think you might see this project actually start moving ahead?
Well, we're hoping to start filming in the spring of 2013. My producing partner, Bill McAdams, has already talked to Byron Pierce over there at the Cats about using their field, which kind of closely resembles the original Arlington Stadium. So we're hoping to have everything together by then to start shooting.
Outstanding. Well, please, we want to keep in touch with you on this, and please keep us posted on the progress of this thing, because obviously, again, being right here just 80 miles to the east of Arlington, we remember it well, those of us of a certain age, of what happened with David Clyde, and it's been well chronicled around here, but we'd love to see the story told on the silver screen, so we're excited about this.
Well, thank you so much, and I will keep you informed, because we're really determined to get this done.
Well, outstanding. Again, the name of the project now is The Prospect, and Richard Julian is the writer of it, and they're trying to get the movie made. And Richard, thanks again for coming on with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Richard
so
Julian, the writer of the movie The Prospect, on Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live on 99.3 Talk FM.